are all pretty. We've known each other long enough that we can say if something's not good without hurting each other's feelings, because I've always said, look, if you don't say something sucks, the fans are going to tell you it sucks. Social media is going to tell you it sucks. So you might as well be your, get it out there, But we're all like best friends, so we don't ever have any, every once in a while, like anybody, we'll have disagreements on stuff. But that's the thing, if we had all been there together, we all would have. That would have been a lot easier, because I was like, that sounds good. Like I kept sending. It took me 2 weeks to go, is that good enough to send to them?
It's so weird.
That's weird, man. I don't know. COVID would just made me weirder.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians who talk all about their lives and music while sharing a craft beer. I hope you had a killer weekend. I most certainly did. Welcome to the first episode of Vox and Hops Sober February 2023. Sober February is once again sponsored by Pitch Black North, the Satanic Tea Company. I'm super stoked to have Pitch Black North sponsoring Sober February for the second year in a row. They make delicious tea. All of their teas are ethically sourced and only created in small batches. If you would like to pick up some Satanic tea, you can do so by going to voxandhops.com/satanic tea. That's voxandhops.com/satanic tea. The Satanic Tea Lord himself has created a promo code for all you Vox and Hops heads. So when you're checking out, use the promo code VOXHOPS15. That's VOXHOPS15, and you will save 15% off of your entire purchase. I'm beyond stoked to have Pitch Black North sponsoring Vox and Hops' Sober February. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter. They put on a bunch of killer gigs all year long here in Montreal, and we have just announced the third edition of Heavy Montreal Presents Vox and Hops Brutal Montreal. This year's edition is on April 15th and is at M. Tellis and features performances by Clutch, Amigo the Devil, and Nate Bergman. If you're going to come to this show, you should pick up your tickets real soon because the tickets are disappearing. You can head on over to voxandhops.com/brutalmtl. That's voxandhops.com/brutalmtl, and you will be taken to the official site where you can purchase your tickets. I'm beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Now, today marks the beginning of something brand new, something that I've been wanting to do for quite a long time, and that is to promote artists by playing their music on the podcast. So this new segment is called Vox and Hops Artist Spotlight, and the very first artist that I'm going to spotlight is a killer band called Verminoth, and here is their killer track, Malignant Gestation, which is the first single off of their upcoming EP, Grotesque Manifestation. Get ready, everyone, check this out.
flesh had begun to peel outwards and flake off. Horribly sunken facial features made immediate identification impossible. The stiffened corpse had been in that twisted position for years.
Damn, that was sick. Verminoth's Malignant Gestation. It's the first single off of their upcoming EP, Grotesque Manifestation. The EP drops on streaming platforms on April 2nd. They also have some gigs coming up in Baltimore, Harrisburg, and Philadelphia. Go check them out. Verminoth, massive cheers to you guys for being on the Vox&Hops' Artist Spotlight. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that is an avid horror fan, well, you should let them know that the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast exists. You could tell them that there are over 390 episodes where I sit down with some of the world's best metal musicians, and we talk all about their lives and music while sharing a craft beer. If you would encourage one of your horror-loving friends to become a brand new Vox&Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today on the podcast, I'm very stoked to be joined by Wednesday 13. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox&Hops episode number 392.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Wednesday 13. I'm very, very stoked to be with you. It's always nice to catch up with people face-to-face in my hometown. You are playing at Fofone Electric tonight in Montreal. Love Montreal, obviously. I live here. Let's start with a very simple Wednesday. How are you doing?
Doing good. We made it across the border. That's always a good sign. It was actually the first time we got across the border with not too much of a hassle. It only took us about 45 minutes, I think, totally, to go through the whole bus, and that's pretty unusual for what we've experienced in the past.
Do you feel that you're typecast when coming across borders?
Well, our our records speak for itself. So whether we look good or bad, they're still going to read between the lines and go, "Well, you did this a while ago." Oh. So yeah. Luckily, I'm 12 years out of any bad law court type thing, so they didn't pressure me too much.
Well, that makes me happy.
I had to set to the side for a few minutes and like in a little booth, and then you're good to go.
It makes me very happy that you're here with me tonight and we can have this conversation. Vox&Hops is typically two metal friends sitting down talking about their lives and music while sharing a craft beer, but this is for Sober February, so you are a sober artist, and I like to speak to sober artists. I think it's very important to showcase people that have realized that have issues with alcohol and have moved on to something else in their lives. So this episode is sponsored by Pitch Black North, the Satanic Tea Company. They sent me a little package for you to enjoy with their Antichrist pumpkin spiced. A better name for you I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And Satanic Royalty, the Midnight Satanic Tea Company collab, so I hope you enjoy those. Let's just jump straight into the thick of it. I love asking this question. I get to see who you were, what you were like growing up, what your influences were, the soundtrack of your youth when you're growing up in your parents' or guardians' house. What music was playing when you were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
Basically, well, I was going to say old country, but at the time it was new country. So I just remember early 80s, we had a little brown radio in the kitchen, and it was always on, and it was always playing the current country music at the time. And of course, you don't like what your parents like for the most part, so country didn't appeal to me.
Yes.
So I lived in music and discovered movies, but now I find myself, as I've gotten older, when I go back and hear all those songs from the early 80s or 70s now and stuff, that's what I listen to the most now.
Isn't it weird how that happens?
That's all I listen to. It makes sense to me now. It reminds me of growing up, and also I didn't understand country, because I don't think you can understand country music until you've lived your life a little bit and had some suffering and some difficulties, and just in everything, and that's what I didn't get at the time. I just went, I don't like that, but over time, I listened to that style of country music as much as I listen to anything else right now. So that's what I play like most of the time on if I choose my own music, my playlist. I've got my 80s country stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. George Jones, Barbara Mandrell. Those were like the big names when I was younger, and of course I heard Johnny Cash and hear all the typical, but like that was the main stuff. A guy named Don Williams. That's the stuff that like I understand it now, and I've found myself during the COVID lockdown. That's what I listen to the most.
Very interesting how that happens. That return to what our parents gave us. It's true about the suffering and the having to live through things to understand country.
But some of that 80s country was almost kind of pop. It was kind of mixed between rock and country. And so yeah, I get a lot of influence out of that. And especially like even some of the guitar stuff, like there's little melodies and things that I hear all the time, and I'm sure I'm somehow incorporating that into our music.
It is very, very what we do as musicians is what we are listening to definitely bleeds itself into what we are composing. But that's a natural thing about being a songwriter, about inspiration and being creative.
Yes, definitely.
I absolutely love hearing about that. Was there ever stuff that like you brought into the house that was too much for your parents?
Probably everything, but I also didn't blast it in front of them. You know, I was respectful, and they knew I liked what I liked. You know, the same thing. I became obsessed with music almost the same way I became obsessed with toys in the same way. You know, so I think they just looked at it as a
movies as well.
They're like, oh, he loved G.I. Joe and He-Man. But this is just a new version of that, and I just got into music, and that's once I got in, I couldn't get out of it. So.
How about your first music experience? Do you remember going to see like your first show, the first live music experience? Do you remember that show?
First concert. It was a whole experience. The first concert I saw was Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood. That was the first. Was that 87, 88, I believe. And I went through the whole wait in line at the mall to get tickets.
Yes.
Did that. Skipped school with my brother. Did that for about, I don't know, stood in line 3 or 4 hours to get 30th row tickets for Motley Crue. But that was a cool thing. The first experience was just, never been to a concert, but just the line to get tickets for a Motley Crue concert in 1987 was a mile long, and you get to see all these rock and roll guys, and I'm a little 11-year-old kid, it's like, this is crazy,
Was it scary, or was there like a sense of community already at that point?
I wasn't scared. I was just like, I want long hair. I want, what do these guys do? So it was definitely eye-opening, and then when I went to the concert, it was just thousands of those same people, and it was just,
cool.
It was everything I thought it would be, and more.
Did you already have the bug at that point of wanting to be a musician at 11? Is it something that happened at that point, or was it afterwards?
I think it was afterwards. I think after I saw, I don't know, I was into, I hadn't picked up an instrument yet, so I wasn't into, knowing what I wanted to do yet. I knew I liked music, but, so I think it was after that, I wanted to be in a band, but I didn't know if I could yet. But once I picked up a guitar, and that's when things changed.
I love that. Do you remember your first time on stage?
Yes. My first stage show was 15 years old at my high school. We played after school. In my first band, I was the rhythm guitarist, and we played like a 30-minute set after school in the auditorium, and about 20 people showed up, and I felt like a rock star.
Hell yes.
It was great. So that was my first real show. I did a talent show 6th grade, years before that, and I lip-synced to a Whitesnake song to get this girl's attention.
Way. So that's cool, that.
Yeah, I got to get this girl's attention, and it worked.
Did it work? Yeah.
It totally worked. And then I went, music can get me anything I want.
Absolutely.
So I pursued it.
I love that. Your voice, at what point did you start singing? You said guitar is the first thing that came to you. Did singing come out of necessity, or was it something that just went hand in hand with guitar playing?
Basically, I joined the band when I was 15, and it was just 4 guys, and we couldn't find a front guy. Everybody could play guitar, play drums, couldn't find a front guy. So we finally found a guy, and he was there for about 2 months. We did one party at somebody's house, and the show at the school. That was, the front guy. And then he left and joined the Army. and we're like that, and then we're back to square one again. And one day I came in with a song I had wrote, and I had some lyrics to it, and I grabbed the microphone and started singing, and everybody was like, "Whoa,
you've been hiding this from us?
You can do this?" I went, "Can I? Does it sound all right?" They were like, "Yes." At the time I'm 15 years old. My voice is pretty high at the time, so when I'm singing my scale, it was just like the first reaction was, "You sound like Bon Scott. You get this high," and I'm like, "That's not a bad place to start." So at that point, once I realized I could do that, then we went from being a four-piece looking for a front guy to just being a four-piece band, and I became the front guy. So that was a big change, and it was awesome. It was a whole new step, but I still miss playing guitar a little bit at the time. But I think for the most part, once I realized I could be a front guy, that was a whole different level.
Back to that White Snake lip sync. It's a little bit more freedom as a vocal. I'm a vocalist as well, there's less things tying us down.
Exactly. I don't have to think as much.
No.
If I got to think about lyrics, singing, and playing guitar, and doing all that, that's a lot of work.
Interacting with the crowd is an important part of a frontman, though.
Yes.
It's an extra job that we have that other people, they have a little bit for showmanship, but having the pulse,
to talk to the crowd is
and feeling the pulse of a crowd and reading a room is something that lies more on our shoulders.
Yes. I think I've gotten pretty good at it over the years.
I would certainly hope so.
Every night I'm like, all right, how good are you? How you get these people to get them to scream every night? So far,
I think you're doing pretty good there, Wednesday. Lyrics, how important were you? Someone that wrote when you were younger? You mentioned that you came in with a song written. Is that something that you've always done, writing for pleasure?
Yeah, I mean, even before I even was playing guitar, I had just a notebook. I could write full songs in my head. I could hear the guitar, I could hear drums.
That's fucking awesome.
I could hear everything, and I still do the same thing to this day, except now I know how to actually play the guitar parts instead of just hearing it in my head. And I used to, I had a notebook when I was probably in 6th grade. This is, pre-Motley Crue concert, just all these songs, and I was probably ripping off other songs in my head. I wrote a song called Slut City when I was in 6th grade. Slut City.
Your parents are proud.
What was the lyrics for that? Slut City. I remember the lyrics the other day. I was thinking about it. Come jump in the pile. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Slut City. They'll leave you stranded, but with a smile. Something like that.
The Motley Crue inspiration is strong.
Like, check out this song I wrote. I'm 10 years old. This is called Slut City.
Was that something you enjoyed in school, writing?
Yeah.
Something like that. Were you successful, like, let's say, in English class, let's say?
No. I was very unsuccessful with grades.
Because they were telling you what to do, or was it more so it didn't fall into your
I started
interests?
cutting school off early. Like, I was good the first couple years, and then it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like it. And school was like prison for me. It was like I was trying to find any way to escape and get out if I could. And then my later years in school, I just stopped going. So, I say this all the time. I didn't graduate from school, but I did go to the very last day of 12th grade. So I completed my days. I did my time. They just didn't give me a golden ticket at the end.
You've still done quite well with yourself there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've never been asked for a diploma in what I do.
No. And and as things are going on throughout many years of looking at education, there's many different forms of education, and people that excel and extremely intelligent, such as yourself, doesn't have to go through standardized schooling anymore.
The best education I ever got was joining a band and going on tour and traveling the world. I mean, that's the best education you can get, and doing it for so long. I mean, you understand the little box you live in when you go to Japan, or you go to Germany, or you go to Russia, or anything, and just even here, it's just such a different thing than where I come from. So I used to think the world was this big, and then now I see it from all perspectives. So I have different views of everything, when anything comes up. Like, I was a kid from the 80s when it was the Cold War, and we're watching all the movies about Russia,
Yeah.
and all this. Russia's the bad, and then and then we go to Russia and play, and we're treated like the Beatles there. And then now it's like, oh, now Russia's the enemy again. I'm like,
exactly.
No, I can't see it that way.
No.
So that's the different views you get from traveling and stuff. So I've learned something. I was always a good, polite Southern gentleman, but I think traveling the world has made me more of a gentleman. I'm respectful to everything. Whereas before, I didn't understand it and would bitch about it.
Good for you. Good for you. Your 9th studio album, Horrifier, came out October 7th via Napalm Records. Banger of a record. I've been enjoying it since then, checking it out. A lot had to do with the pandemic, lockdown, you alone in your house, isolated, writing this album.
God, you made it sound really even worse. Isolated, alone.
I've been watching. I watched a bunch of interviews before coming to have a chat with you. So you didn't want it to be like boring and like be like a lamenting album. You want it to be fun, loud, and fast paced, which you've definitely succeeded. But talk to me about that decision. You guys couldn't get together because there was all the restrictions, and you guys didn't want to dance through any of those loopholes. Bands nowadays are based all across the country in different countries, so you decided just to do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we were originally going to go back with Michael from Devil Driver, who did the last record. But he lives, an hour and a half from me in California, and sometimes that commute back and forth in LA traffic can be 2 hours to get to the studio, 8 hours in the studio, 2 hours to get back. It's just like, it was just too much. And then plus, all the COVID restrictions, everybody was scattered all around. So I just moved to Burbank. I got a new place there. I had a cool little garage/studio in the back that was set up perfectly for this.
Very cool.
So we all talked and went, why don't we just do it ourselves? We did it like this years ago. We used to record on our own. Like, we're not dumb. We know how to do this. So instead of spending all of our advance money on a producer and more, we decided just to try it ourselves. So we, initially Ramon and I, our guitarist, got together and put the music together, the ideas. We all kind of came in and did our own little parts, but we weren't all there collectively to hear it. So once everybody kind of did their parts, and I did all the vocals last, so I didn't have anybody to say that's good or not, except for me and my girlfriend.
It's scary.
And it's scary. So that's why it took me forever to get confident with my vocals or anything. I'd spend a week on a song, and so I think that was the strangest part, is I had to be the guy at the end to go, is this good enough?
Yeah.
And it was just a weird thing, because normally the last two records we had the producers to tell us, oh, that's good enough, so yeah, and then we also had so much time to do as well. So I don't know if I
and going back.
I don't know if I like that much time anymore. I almost really just have someone go, cool, just knock it out quick. But yeah, like you said, I didn't want to make a post-COVID record that was just sad and like, because everybody had a shitty time during that. Some of us had worse times, but I think anybody had a good time during the lockdown. So I didn't want to make a record whining about it. So I just wanted to make a fun record. I've always been about escapism. My music and what I do has always been for people to forget their real lives. I didn't want to make a record about everybody's real life for the past 2 years. No. So we didn't do that. We just, I was like, what do you know best? Sing about what you know. I know Halloween. I know Christine. I know horror movies. And so I just did what I did.
Is there ever a moment, back to the Too Close before I jump to that one, I'm very lucky my guitarist is my producer, so to have him, he's the one that says, Matt, that was good, and I get this like sense of relief, and we move on to the next thing. So when you would showcase your material that you finally feel is good enough and your girlfriend thinks is good enough, to your bandmates, are you nervous that they say no, and how often do they actually say no?
I think we're all we've known each other long enough that we can say if something's not good without hurting each other's feelings, because I've always said, look, if you don't say something sucks, the fans are going to tell you it sucks. Social media is going to tell you it sucks. So you might as well be get it out there, but we're all like best friends, so we don't ever have any, every once in a while, like anybody, will have disagreements on stuff, but that's the thing, if we had all been there together, we all would have That would have been a lot easier. Because like, that sounds good. Like I kept sending.
That would have been faster.
It took
right?
me 2 weeks to go. Is that good enough to send to them?
It's so weird how that happens.
That's weird, man. I don't know. COVID would just made me weirder.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
When you're coming up, you mentioned Christine. You mentioned other horror stuff, writing lyrics, creating this atmosphere, this world for people. Do you feel like at any point you will have covered it all?
Kind of. I mean, after doing this being the 9th record, and, and I've got other albums, with Murder Dolls and the Frankenstein Drag Queens before that. It's kind of the same thing.
Is there like a new movie that comes out and you're like, fuck yes?
Not really. It's more I find an old movie that I didn't know about. So I'm not really.
It's very cool then. Yeah.
Not really into newer stuff. I try to give it a shot, but like the CGI stuff kind of kills me. I'm not a video game guy either, so when I see these new movies with these CGI effects, they just look like a video game to me.
I have it right here: special effects versus practical.
Yeah. So to me, I just watched the Swamp Thing the other day, the original Swamp Thing, and I'm like, this is perfect for me. These terrible rubber suits and effects are exactly what I've always liked. Anything that looks touchable and realistic to me.
Organic.
But I have seen some CGI stuff that's amazing. I'm not dogging all that. It's just, for me, my favorite type of horror movies are the ones that didn't need that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was watching Reanimator the other night.
Hell yes.
And just seeing all the ways they did all the effects and the severed heads.
Hell
and
yes.
It was no CGI. It was done practical effects. It was amazing.
I think it's amazing too, and I'm completely on board. And I watched, I think it was what's called Morbius, something last night, which is dating also this chat that we're having. I didn't get it. I don't understand. But
Morbius with Jared Leto.
Exactly, exactly, and it was all CGI. Anyways, the cover art you love. It's as important for you as the music itself, creating that atmosphere. It's the first introduction, at least that we used to have, to albums back in the day. So I understand the importance of having something that is genuine and that matches the concept and the feeling and the atmosphere that you want to create. You mentioned that the artist created like a He-Man style Skeletor castle mixed with King Diamond, and you were automatically in love. How involved are you in the creation of these things? How much guidance do you give the artists?
I've been working with this artist named Johnny Bush. I met him during the pandemic. He's a fan, and he sent some artwork that was killer, and we just kept working together, and I really liked all the stuff he did. And then when it came time, he's like, I'd love to give your next album a shot. And I went, all right. And we talk like every day, and he gets what I do. I don't have to explain it too much. And we went through a couple different ideas, and then I was looking at one of my He-Man toy boxes and the posters, and I went, those look as epic as album covers back in the 80s.
Hell
like,
yes.
Why don't we do like a Wednesday 13 Skeletor castle, Dracula castle? So we did that, and then what you see the album cover, he sent it back in the little carriage at the bottom. And I went, whoa. I was like, that looks like the King Diamond. Was it Abigail?
I believe so, yeah.
And he's like, does it? And we both looked it up and went, and then so he was like, whoa. So some people have seen that in there as well. So again, you can't go wrong with a King Diamond album cover mixed with a Masters of the Universe inspired cover. It just looks like something that I would have walked into a store when I was younger and I couldn't stop staring at it. Like when I saw Iron Maiden Number of the Beast or Kiss Destroyer on vinyl, I just could not stop staring at it. I wanted to know what it was about. I wanted to get inside the record, and I think that's something that's kind of lost a lot these days.
Absolutely,
so
in the digital age.
Super important to me for that this is as important as the music. It's all one big piece. People go, well, the music should come first. I'm like, well, of course it comes first. But why can't you put the cherry on top? Why can't you paint it up? I
agree with you. The music does come first, but you've created something as an experience live too, which is important. Inspired by Kiss, Twisted Sister, Alice Cooper. A show. It's more than just the music is a part of it, but the show is a very nice cherry on top. How much limitations financially versus your creativity? I can imagine, I know myself that I have these massive fucking ideas, but obviously financially you can't get. How annoying is that?
It's the most annoying thing of all. If I had a budget, I would give people a show that would rival Zombie, Kiss, any if I had the budget, but I don't. So, and also the venues we played didn't have the room for that type of budget anyway. So
exactly. Yeah.
So we make it work. I've been able to do that for a long time. I mean, I started out in little clubs. I'm still playing little clubs, and I know how to work them. So, and plus in these little places, sometimes just your persona and your image can be as big as a pyro show, especially in a small club when it's packed and the fans are there. You're that close, that intimate. So, but again, I always dream of that arena show, or I can write out the budget and I come down in the UFO and that kind of stuff. Like I used to draw the stages when I was a kid in the back of class.
Yes.
I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna come out of this laser beam, like Kiss on Meets the Phantom of the Park, and so just big ideas like that.
I agree, and you definitely find ways around it, such as with You're So Hideous. Mm-hmm. You found a real contortionist to play the girl, which is just smart and amazing, and it's so fucking creepy. There's no CGI. It's all real. It's amazing.
I realized when we were doing that video, like, videos are okay to me. I kind of like them. I kind of hate them. But when I walked in that day and I'm like, here we are trying to recreate The Exorcist, that's hard enough in itself to try to recreate it without making it look stupid and campy. But when I walked in and saw the girl, the actress, I was like, I don't have to do anything. I just let her.
Let her shine.
It was great, man, and that was such a cool thing. And again, it goes to show, like, it's no CGI stuff. It's just a real person doing that stuff. And I would love to put a behind the scenes out of that, because you can't hear it in the video, but like she was like screaming and doing all this stuff. And the first couple takes we did of it, we were like, gave us goosebumps. We were kind of looking around like, man, this is intense. So that's the only thing I think that misses from the video. If you could actually hear this, and the same for the Hideous video. If you could, the Insides Out video. If you could have heard the people's reaction, it was awesome.
What was in that vomit?
It was yogurt with green food coloring.
Really?
Vanilla yogurt. I didn't want to have. They were like, let's get some pea soup. I went, I'm not eating that shit. I was like, you're gonna throw something in my face, I better be good. Like, what do you got? Well, we can do some. I'm like, it's yogurt, green food coloring, and the only thing I didn't really enjoy about that was we did so many takes of it. So by the time it was done, I was just like a milkshake with whipped cream on top, and it started to dry, and then it started to crack, and it just turned to like just dust. So it was just, I was like, I can't wait to be done with this and just shower. It was so disgusting, but I knew it was worth the all the trouble for the video. I knew it would come out good.
It worked out. It's fucking awesome. This is a sober Vox and Hops episode. I'd love to dig into the moment. Back, you recorded Necrophase as a Rebirth. That was your first sober album. Do you remember the moment when, or the morning, or the after too many mornings of waking up, pretending that you didn't drink a whole bottle the night before, that you went, this is it, I'm done?
Yeah, I mean, I've did this several times in my life. Again, I was a late drinker to the party. I didn't start till like 27, something like that.
Okay, here I was imagining all the times that you were cutting school.
No,
you were off drinking in the park or something.
Oh no, I didn't do any of that. So and this is I did that several times. I went 3 or 4 years, stopped 3 or 4 years, went another 3 or 4, and it was just one of those things where I just wasn't. I was depressed. I wasn't feeling good, and I stopped. And but again, I still smoke weed. I just started smoking weed till I was 34.
Really?
Didn't even try it. So I'm a late bloomer. So I'm thinking cocaine will come around 50, 60, heroin. See what else we can get into on the way.
What turned you? Why at 27? Why at 34? Why did these things spiral into your life later than most people?
Well, 26, 27 was when Murder Doll started.
Okay.
And I went on tour. And I remember Joey, he's like, what do you drink? And I went, Kool-Aid. No, seriously, what do you drink? I went, I don't drink. He goes, you don't drink? I went, no. He goes, I said, well, I had a drink when I was like 16 or 17, this stuff called Boone's Farm. It was like in a bottle. It was just this wine, sweet, awful. And I drink it like at a party one time, and so the next day of rehearsal, I show up and Joey's got 2 bottles of Boone's Farm sitting there for me.
Really?
And I remember I drank and I got a little drunk, and he was laughing. I was making other people laugh, and it kind of cured my social anxiety a little bit. And then I was like, whoa, I can be funny. I can be relaxed. And that just kind of kicked it in, you know. But again, I didn't go overboard. It's easy to go overboard. I have several times, and just before that record, I just wanted to get my shit together. And but again, I probably smoked more weed after that to make up for it. So weed's my friend, and that's why they call me on the side Weeds Day.
I like that.
Weeds Day 13.
That's nice for a collab question I have coming up. But is that how you cope with the social anxiety now through marijuana? Or is that something that you don't need anymore?
I still just have social anxiety. I don't know. It's
a weird thing that singers, a lot of singers have it.
It sucked. I was doing pretty good, and then the pandemic got me back in that quiet zone again. So now my first appearance, the first thing I did out of the pandemic was a horror movie convention. Yeah. And I was just full on panic attack. Oh no. I was like, how am I going to just get out and talk to people? It was just a weird thing. So yeah, that's always, I don't know if I'll ever get over the social anxiety. I'm still that guy that can go on stage, can scream, yell at people all day, but then I go, well, I'm kind of shy. And I go, you can't be shy. I'm like,
I'm fucking shy.
Yeah, so it's hard to explain to people.
I'm lucky that I have the podcast that's really pushed me to speak to strangers, because I'm also very, very shy. I'm lucky that this is something that through the ritual of conversations, that I've learned that I can speak to anyone.
Right.
But it's work.
Yes, it is. Oh yeah, during the pandemic, I started a Patreon fan club where I did live stories on 3 different Instagrams, and I was doing 2 or 3 live stories a week, and just talking for an hour it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
And to not sound like an idiot. That's the hardest part.
Because we judge ourselves there too.
Yeah, so I'd do these little live stories and go back and watch it and go, what are you doing with your...
No, don't watch them. That's the worst.
What are you doing with your eyes? What are you doing with your mouth there? Stop that. Wear sunglasses. Don't do this. So, yeah, it's the same thing. I'm watching myself doing interviews.
It's like you're tracking vocals all over again.
Yeah, it never ends.
Poor you. So your first tour back, sober, there was no issues. It was pure. Were you worried at first? Did people associate you as the party guy that was drinking?
Luckily, people just bring us a lot of weed. They just literally how you doing? I shake people's hands and they're just handing me off nuggets of weed.
Okay, good. So you have a good life there. I like that.
Yeah, it's good. Happened today. There it is. See, look at that. That was the handoff right there from today.
Montreal's very good for that, boys. Into mental health, it's something important for me. I've been asking this for the past few months now. How do you cope when you're not feeling well, when you're feeling down in the dumps? What is your tactic to make yourself feel better, if there is any?
I don't know. I mean, usually music and being on tour can cure all that. I can have a shitty day, and then an hour before showtime, I can zone out of it. So music has always helped the live front. When I'm not on tour at home, it's still kind of music. Like I said, I can put on those old 80s country songs, and that can heal me. Same thing with my my toy collection at home. I have 2 major rooms just full of toys, and I made this one room, it's like my sanctuary, which is all G.I. Joe, He-Man. I can just go in and just sit down and just be like, Is there
a white whale that you don't have?
There's a lot of stuff I'm missing, but I've done pretty well. Just been collecting off tour. The guys saw my toy room. I've been trying to. The idea, I was like, one day I'm gonna have a room where I just walk in, all my G.I. Joe set up, all my He-Man set up, just like it was a toy store, and I did it. And,
that's amazing.
So that's my little fountain of youth. I can go in there and feel young again and forget about the real world.
I love that. What if one of your guys, we're in the bandwagon right now, they're all around us. What if one of your guys is not feeling well? What is your tactic to help them feel better that day?
Troy, what happens when you don't feel well? How do I make you feel better?
Feel well.
He never feels well, he says.
He keeps drinking.
He keeps drinking.
No.
Family fucking Feud. Are you joking? You know that's what we do on the bandwagon all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know
We
that,
all
right?
watch, we usually watch Family Feud.
Hell yes.
Today we've been watching Dark Side of the Ring, watching all this cool wrestling stuff. But
Hell yes.
I don't know. We all get along. I mean, we've been on this bus now since the beginning of September, and none of us have tried to kill each other. Not even a little bit. That's good.
Hell yes. Shout out to Obituary for introducing Cryptopsy to Family Feud.
No, Family Feud. Steve Harvey
Hell yes.
is the best host of Family Feud.
He's so good.
He's the best. I love Richard Dawson, but Steve Harvey's the man.
I think Steve Harvey's a little less hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a few more questions. Collabs, you mentioned Weeds Day. People call you that. I love making beers. It's what I do. I've made teas with Satanic Tea Company, Pitch Black North. I've made coffees before for Cryptopsy. What would be the perfect Wednesday 13 collab?
I was thinking the other day, I want to find a nut company and have Wednesday 13's nuts. The commercial will be like, hey, this holiday season, put my nuts in your mouth. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I don't even think about it. Just like, please, eat my nuts. Here, eat a couple of them. You might like it. Share them with your friends. Yeah. Have one nut.
One last question. I typically ask what your hangover cure is. That doesn't apply here. I'd love to hear about the silver lining of the lockdown for you, that time at home. What is the best thing that happened out of that time?
I fostered some cats for a couple of weeks. That was pretty cool. That's the only good thing I'm trying to think out of the lockdown. No, that's not a good answer. I don't know. I mean,
Did you finish your toy sanctuary during the lockdown?
I thought I did, but now I realize there's so much more I want to do to it. I'm just never satisfied. So, but no, the toy thing was a good rescue. All these shops in Los Angeles closed down, so I went on Facebook Marketplace and was looking up all these stores that had all these giant glass cases, and they were selling for $20. Yeah. So I went and bought all these cases. So now all my toys are in displays now, so it looks legit. They used to just be everywhere, and dusting was a major problem. My Monsters figures are like they actually were in the house from the 60s. They had so much cobwebs and dust on them, you know, so yeah, my toys were I got a little bit of time with the toys, but also, I don't know, just having 2 years off, doing the fan club thing, getting to know my fans a little bit, asking them questions, like, you know, I got to listen to my music for the first time, because I've been on tour. I don't go back and listen to my music. I listen to it when we're on stage, but, like, I got to go back and listen to my records and go, which record do you like the best? So, I don't know, a lot of reflecting time in there, so it wasn't as, I guess I made the best out of it as much as I could.
It's the only thing we could do Wednesday. Wednesday, thank you so much for hanging out with me, talking about your life, music. I hope you enjoy that Pitch Black North Satanic Tea.
I love satanic stuff, anything. And now I can drink Satan. I'm into it.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this was an awesome conversation. I actually recorded this episode a long time ago. It was actually early October. I was sitting in his bandwagon. It felt so cool to be back in a bandwagon. I hadn't been in a bandwagon since 2019 when Cryptopsy did that tour with Aborted, Hell over North America. That was a damn good time. It felt nice to be back in a bandwagon, though, to have that low hum rumbling of the generator. As you guys heard throughout the episode, it's hard to get rid of that. When I'm setting up for Sober February, I am always afraid that I'm not going to have any episodes. So when I found out that Wednesday was sober, I was like, yes, I'm going to use this for a Sober February episode, and I'm damn glad that I did. This was a great conversation. Massive cheers to Wednesday for hanging out with me, and the whole band was basically sitting around us, listening to us have our conversation. They chimed in a little bit here and there. It was a fun night. Massive thanks to Wednesday 13 and the rest of the band for being so damn cool and letting me come into their little bubble and have a conversation. I really appreciated that. That was really, really cool of you guys. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You could do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week that contains all the details of everything that has happened recently in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You'll get to see which episodes I dropped, dropped recently. You'll get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will get to hear about any projects I have in the works before I announce them to the public. And trust me, I always got a lot of stuff going on. I have 2-3 massive things going on behind the scenes right now that I'm sort of hinting at in the newsletter. You will also get to see which albums the Vox&Hops album review crew have reviewed recently, and you will get to see which albums Jerry Monk, Vox&Hops' Metal Architect, has added to the Brutal Awakenings playlist. There's always a lot of things going on in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast, and I hate when you miss a single thing, so please do me a favor and sign up to the mailing list. The Vox&Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer rest of the week. I will be back next week with 2 episodes, one on Tuesday and another on Friday. But until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.